This is Fluency, Module 3, Lesson 24. We're going to start off with some group counting. We are going to practice 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s, and 10s. And we're going to go to that number times 10. So 2 times 10 is 20. So we'll do that. We are going to just go straight through. I might stop you and say, wait, let's count backwards right now, and then we'll count forward again. But let's go ahead. And we're going to go ahead and start with the 2s. So let's start 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Let's go backwards from 12. 12, 10, 8, 6, and let's go forward from 6. 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. All right, we're going to go 3s and we're going to go to 30. We'll start with 3. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Let's stop at 15 and go backwards. 15, 12, 9, 6. And from 6, let's go forward. 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24. Let's stop at 24 and go backwards. 24, 21, 18, 15. From 15, let's go forward. 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30. Good work. Let's go to 4s. 4s, we are going to go to 40. So 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. Let's stop at 20 and go backwards. 20, 16, 12, 8. Now forward. 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, 36. Let's stop at 36 and go backwards. 36, 32, 28, 24, and now forward from 24. 24, 28, 32, 36, 40. Good work. 5s. 5s are pretty straightforward. I think we should all be able to just go straight through on those. So here we go. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. Let's go backwards from 50 all the way down to 0. 50, 45, 40, 35, 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5, and we'd end at 0. Good work. 6s. These are going to be a little bit trickier. I'm going to go just a little bit slower. 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36. Let's stop there and go backwards. 36, 30, 24, 18. Now forward from 18. 18, 24, 30, 36, 42, 48, 54. Let's stop there and go back. 54, 48, 42, 36, 30, and now forward. 30, 36, 42, 48, 54, 60. Good work. 10s, again, we'll go straight up and then we'll go backwards. All right? 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Now backwards from 100. 100, 90, 80, 70, 60, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10. Good work. All right, we're going to move on now. Do a little bit more with a prime and composite like we did yesterday. Look at the number 5. Is it prime or composite? That is a prime number. Our factor pair for that would be 1 and 5. 15. We did this yesterday. Do you remember what it was? It ends in a 5, so that tells us 5 is definitely a factor. So that tells us it's going to be composite. Our factor pairs are 1 times 15, or 1 and 15, and 3 and 5. Alrighty, when we look at 12, 12 prime or composite. We know 1 and 12 are definitely factors. We also know that 2 is a factor because it ends in an even number. It ends in a 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8. So we know for sure that 2 is a factor. So let's start with 1 and 12. That's our first factor pair. 2 and 6, because 2 times 6 equals 12. 3, is 3 a factor? Yes, it is. 3 and 4, 3 times 4. We've already got 4 written down. Is 5 a factor? No, it's not, because it doesn't end in a 0 or a 5. And 6 is a factor, but we already have 6 here with 2. So we have listed all of the factor pairs for 12. All right, 19. Is 19 prime or composite? We know that 1 and 19 are a factor pair, so 1 and 19 together. And are there any others? 2 does not go evenly into it. We know that because it's not even. 3 does not. 4 does not. 5 does not because it's not a 0 or a 5. 6 does not. 7, 8, 9, none of those go into it. So we know that 19 is prime. 24. 24. Well, we know that 1 and 24, so we can go ahead and write that down because we know for sure that that is a factor pair. It ends in an even number, so that tells us that 2 is a factor pair. So 2 times what number equals 24? Well, that's 12. 3. How many times does 3 go into 24? Well, 3 goes into 24 8 times, so we know that's a factor pair. How about 4? Does 4 go into 24? 24 divided by 4 is 6, so we know that 4 and 6 are factor pairs. 5 is not. 6 is already listed. 7 is not. 8 is already listed. 9, 10, 11, 12 is already there, so we have all of our factor pairs for 24. All right, we're going to look at these and we're going to test for factors. So on your personal whiteboard right now, I want you to look at this group of numbers, 30, 45, 48, and 56. Which one of those numbers has 10 as a factor? And right away, as we're thinking about it, we know that 10 times any number ends with a 0. There's only one number that does that, and that is 30. So we know that our answer is 30. So now we're going to write the division equations that prove that both 5 and 2 are factors of 30. Well, the way we would do that, so we'd start with, well, let's say, what's 30 divided by 5? Well, we know that 5 times 6 is 30, so that is 6. And 30 divided by 2, well, we know that 2 times 15 is 30, so we know that that is a factor as well. So those are our division equations that prove that both 5 and 2 are factors of 30. Now we're going to write the numbers that have 6 as a factor. So I'm just going to remind you what those numbers were. Those numbers were 30, 45, 48, and 56. So look at those numbers, and which of those numbers have 6 as a factor? Turn off your, turn off the video if you need to. Pause it. Look. When you know the answers, go ahead and unpause the video. There I am using that made-up word again, unpause. All right. We are going to look at 6. Those two numbers that you should have written should have been 30 and 48. Both of those have 6 as a factor. 45 does not, we know, and 56 does not. If you remember, choosing numbers that have 6 as a factor. So now we're going to prove that both 3 and 2 are factors of 30 and 48, and we're going to use the associative property. So we started off on the previous slide. So we're going to write 30 is equal to 6 times, you should have said 5. Now, we can also say, well, 6 is 2 times 3, right? So those are also factors of it, times 5. And if we were to solve this one, 2 times 3 times 5 is 6 times 5 equals, 30. Or we can switch those commas and we can say 2 times 3 times 5 which is 2 times 15, which is also 30. Let's look at the other one, and we know 48 is equal to 6 times 8. We're going to do that same process. 2 times 3, we know that 2 times 3 is 6. So we're going to say that instead of 6 times 8. That's 6 times 8, which is 48. But we could also say, by just changing our parentheses, 2 times 3 times 8, or 2, whoops, I keep forgetting that 8, 2 times 24, which is also 48. Both of those work, and that proves that 2 and 3 are factors of 30 and 48. All right, now we're going to look at those same numbers and write the numbers that have 8 as a factor. So I'll write them down again. We had 30, 45, 48, and 56. So look at those numbers and think about which ones of those, which numbers have 8 as a factor. That means that 8, it can be multiplied by something else to equal that number. And as you look at them, you should have come up with 48 and 56. All right, keep going. All right, so what we're going to do is prove that both 4 and 2 are factors of 48 and 56. So we're going to do the same thing that we did on a couple of slides ago, proving that 3 and 2 were factors of the numbers 30 and 48. So let's look at those, and let's start with 48. So we know that 48 is equal to 8 times 6. So now we're going to look at that 8, and we're going to say, well, we know that 8 is 4 times 2 times 6, and we know that we can see that that equals 48. And then we can move our parentheses. It doesn't change our equation at all. We're going to say 4 times, this time 2 times 6, which means that if it's in the parentheses, that means that we're going to do that first. So 2 times 6 is 12 times 4, and that equals 48. So there we are. We have shown that both 4 and 2 are factors at least of 48. So I'm going to have to write a little bit smaller. Let's do that same thing with 56. So we know that 56 is equal to 8 times 7. We'll go through that same process. 4 times 2, which we know is equal to 8, times 7, and that equals 56. Well, if we switch our parentheses, we have 4 times 2 times 7 equals 56. Well, 2 times 7 is equal to 14. And if we need to prove that, because that's not something we commonly run into, we could quickly do the multiplication. 14 times 4. 4 times 4 being 16. 1 times 4 is 4 plus 5. And there's our answer, 56. 56. And we can see that 4 times 2 and 4 and 2 are both factors of 48 and 56. That is the end of Module 3, Lesson 24, Fluency.